Welcome to the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM. Now, here's your host, Dr. Mike Wall.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Wall, and today we are going to talk about tourism here in Newfoundland, in particular adventure and active tourism. And with us, there's nobody better to speak about this in the province than having Minister Bernard Davis here. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Mike.
All right. For those of you who don't know Minister Davis, he has a really long track record of involvement here in the province and been involved with government for a number of years, but has had the opportunity to work with advanced education, skills, and labor. And in 2019 was sworn in as the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry, and Innovation. So he's got the inside scoop on what we can do here this summer. So, Minister Davis, it's been a really interesting time here in the province recently, and we have the summer to ourselves, it looks like. So what are some things that we should be doing here at home to engage in tourism?
Mike, it's a very good question. I mean, we've been working very closely with Hospitality Newfoundland and Labrador and our tourism operators almost on a daily basis since this pandemic has started, and making sure that when the federal government came in with some money, we were there to, make sure the gaps were being filled. And these operators have invested an awful lot of money and time and energy into putting a first-class product on the display for people when they come here, whether they're residents or non-residents traveling to this province. And, we want to make sure that continues into the future. And some of the activities that we're looking at a marketing campaign that'll be starting sometime mid-June, where it's going to be, encouraging people to vacation right here in Newfoundland and Labrador and spend your money in this province, supporting your neighbors, friends, and family, who are the people behind these businesses that give so much to the economy in this province.
Exactly. It's ironic you say that because literally a couple of days ago, I was chatting with a colleague of mine, and we were saying, it'd be so great to have a place where we can go and find out what's available, and you could just get a package where, you got your vacation was planned, and you can spend that money here and just go somewhere and have something laid out just like you would if you went anywhere else. I think that'd be great for locals.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's part of where you can visit NewfoundlandLabrador.com, which will have a lot of information about operators and activities that would be able to be participated in by people. And part of the things that the appeal in Newfoundland and Labrador is its rustic nature and the ability for us to get out and experience something that you can't experience anywhere else in the world. And outside the people, our scenery is the next biggest thing within our province's viewscape that's inviting people to come here.
That's great. Yeah, and things may be a little bit different in how we experience it, but I think that's almost a good thing for those of us that have done some tourism here in the province, because you can go experience it in a different way, and there might be some really creative ways that operators and people are getting involved. So let's talk a little bit about the wellness side of things, right? So obviously wellness show, getting outside and being physically active. Adventure tourism is a huge thing in the world, and we happen to have an amazing epicenter for it here in the province. What are some things people can look for adventure tourism in Newfoundland?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of different things. We have about 170 businesses or so, Mike, that participate in the outdoor adventure products and that opportunities for individuals to participate in. We have boat tours, we have marine and fishing experiences, we have hiking and adventure, we have rafting, walking, food and foraging tours, and ATV tours, and in the winter time we have the snowmobile tours. So there's an awful lot of activity going on, and it employs an awful lot of people. We just look at the industry as a lot of people view tourism not as a huge economic driver that it is. It's $1.14 billion in sales throughout the year. It employs about 20,000 people and some 2,700 businesses. So there's an awful lot of activity going on in all regions of the province, and that's the most interesting part about it, Mike. It touches every community in our province, and every walk of life has the ability to do that. And every region of our province has something a little different to offer to a visitor.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been looking through the map and seeing some areas that I haven't spent a lot of time at, and I'm planning on going down and seeing what I can do in those areas, because every time you turn a corner, it could be completely different. I mean, you go from Avalon to Central to the West Coast, and the geography is completely different. The activity is completely different. And so I mean, I think that there's tons of things that we could keep busy for a couple of years, I'd say.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, just the hiking trails alone. If you just look at the hiking trails in the province, I mean, we got some crown jewels right here on the Avalon Peninsula. But if you wanted with the East Coast Trail, if you wanted to venture a little further away, in every region of our province, there's a great trail network that everyone around the world really interested in visiting. I mean, I was out on the Great Northern Peninsula last year, and I ran into 4 individuals from Germany that were entering the province, and I asked them why they chose here, and they chose here directly for the hiking opportunities that they could avail of. So, I ran into them at one of the provincial parks out there, and it was just amazing to have a conversation with them to see that this is something that they traveled. It was on their bucket list, because a lot of people don't travel to Newfoundland and Labrador without being well planned, because it's not an easy destination to get to in some cases. But we do very well at attracting people to this province, and we want to make sure that they keep Newfoundland and Labrador on their bucket list. I know it's not safe to travel here right now. In the coming months, we hope that that'll clear up and invite these individuals that are coming back to the province to come in here. But the biggest reason we've got this campaign ready to go to encourage Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to get out and experience, what it is we love about our province, and the ability to get in and see those little things that have been done that nobody realizes have been done in the operations these tour operators have done. That's pretty amazing stuff.
Right. And I mean, what better salespeople than the people from the province? And you know what? Maybe it's time for us to all look at it and say, look, I haven't done a lot of these things that people travel here for. What do they know that I don't? So
well, you're right. There's a lot of pent-up demand here too, Mike. I mean, people have been staring at the same 4 walls for almost 11 weeks now, and that's a challenge in and of itself. And now we're starting to see the nicer weather come, and getting out and experiencing that. What better way to do it than get out and see part of the province that we all know and love, and either explore it for the first time or explore it for the 12th time. We want to encourage you to get out and see it.
That's great, and it's good for our health, and it gets a bit of vitamin N, as T.A. Loeffler, one of my previous guests, said, vitamin nature.
Yeah.
Let's go through this list of the things that you mentioned. Let's talk specifically. First thing you said was boat tours. And I know that there's tons of different ways to get out and take some boat tours. What are some key things people should look for when they're looking for a tour?
Well, with boat tours, I mean, there's obviously this season is a tough season for them, because you're going to miss an opportunity with respect to the non-resident traffic to coming here. But those that operate, there's small and bigger operations. Whether you want to take advantage of seeing icebergs or birds that would be around the different coastlines that we have. I mean, they range from Labrador to St. Anthony to Twillingate, Bonavista Peninsula has them, Witless Bay and Bay Bulls, even out of St. John's Harbour here we have some as well. And there's lots of opportunities for people to participate in boat tours. But it's not just the bigger operators. It's Zodiac tours. It's opportunities to get in rafting. It's opportunities to get in, sea kayaking. There's all these different communities have something different to offer, and something that you're not going to see in the next community. If you kayak in one community or one bay, it's not going to be the same as the next bay you can go rafting or kayaking in. So from my perspective, I encourage people to get out and experience as much as they can. And knowing full well you're not going to get it all done. If you wanted to see everything in Newfoundland, it's going to take you a lifetime to see it.
It is. And kayaking, apparently, we've got some of the best kayaking conditions in the world. I heard something on that recently. I thought that was amazing. And the whales are in already. So that's
absolutely. We see some of the whales. In. I know people were blocked in on the TCH there a little while ago when there was some work happening, emergency work that had to be done. But some of them were enjoying the look of the whales jumping in the bay out there in Holyrood. So from that standpoint, we have so much to offer, and people sometimes take it for granted. I know I have in the past. I try my best to get out and experience as much as I can of the province every time I get the opportunity to. So, and I encourage people and taking that time to fall in love with this place again, is as good a time as any is right now.
Totally, and it's on the fishing side of things too. A couple of my friends operate QE fishing out of the gut. When fishing opens up, they take me out and we catch fish, and then we make fish and chips afterwards. And I think that maybe sometimes that experience might be even lost on people that are tourists because they don't understand how special that is. But Newfoundlanders, I mean, that's a heck of a way for us to experience our own culture firsthand, and maybe in a unique way.
You're 100% correct, and we've done a lot of work with our operators, and to give them all the credit in the world because they deserve it. They've looked at what the tourists that travel to this province want to experience, and we've done a very good job of trying to match that to what people want to experience. So investments put in place to ensure that you get that full experience. Whether you, just like the example you use, go out and fish for the cod, then go bring the cod in, clean the cod, then go eat the cod. I mean, it is a fantastic experience that you can't get anywhere else. And we may take it for granted in some cases, but it's something that is quite an experience for people that travel to this province, and even for a townie like myself, that's quite an experience to get out and get your hands dirty and experience something that's pretty unique to this province.
Totally. My friends call me a wannabe because I want to be. I'm always traveling around and seeing all the great places that are around the province. The other day we went out to a beach I had never even seen before, and people were pulling lobster pots, and there was whales breaching, and it was just like, it was unreal. Because one thing about Newfoundland, I will tell you, is that I never get sick of looking at the coastline. You can go for a hike, and you can be on Signal Hill for the 100th time or 1000th time, or down in Doran's Lane, or Skirwing Trail, like you said, or out in Grossmore, and no matter what, the scenery just takes your breath away every time. It's just a unique view compared to anywhere else in the world, in particular Canada. So we're lucky.
Yeah, no, Mike, it's not the wind that takes your breath away when you're looking at the scenery here. I can tell you, it's actually the view that you get to see. Myself and my wife were on a trail just last weekend, and we went up to Ladies Lookout on the back end of Kitty Vitty and the Signal Hill. And I mean, just looking down at an eagle's nest. I mean, how many people get the opportunity to say they've done that on a weekend 5 minutes away from your doorstep? So from that perspective, it's amazing. And we have a plan this summer to get to 7 of the trails that border the Avalon region on East Coast Trail, which is one goal that we want to try to set. But I mean, everyone has the ability to do those things, and it's important for us to get out and push that and make sure the operators understand where people are too.
Well, that's awesome. We're just starting. We got a lot of things we're going to cover off the list that you gave us, but we're going to jump to a break here. I'm here with Minister Bernard Davis. He is the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry, and Innovation. We'll be right back after this break.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM. Now back to Dr. Mike Wall. This is the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Minister Bernard Davis. He's the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry, and Innovation, and today we are talking about adventure tourism and active tourism here in the province this summer. Okay, Minister Davis, before we went to the break, we were talking about some of our favorite trails and hiking around. Let's walk folks through what they'd be looking for if they get out and take part of some of those East Coast trails and some of the other trails around the province.
Well, Mike, I mean, East Coast Trail is a jewel, as we said before, but it's only one piece of a huge network right across the province and right into Labrador. So we've got, I think, over 90% of the people that travel to our province participate in hiking experience, which is interesting. And a lot of Newfoundlanders, Labradorians do this on a daily basis themselves, and getting out into taking an opportunity to work on some of these or walk some of these manicured trails or worked on trails. I mean, the East Coast Trail does a fantastic job with a lot of volunteers and a lot of support, and many of the other trail systems around the province are similar. They work on volunteers and people that are passionate about getting out and getting active and providing a top-notch service for people that want to avail of it. And I mean, I get out myself as much as I can on the trail networks close to my home, and even when I'm in other places in the province, when I get the opportunity to go into jump on a trail for a short period of time or a long period of time, I try to do that. So, we've been pretty lucky in the province that we have such a huge outdoor opportunity, and encouraging people to go out and do that and travel, whether it be the Skirwing Trail or whether it be out in Grossmore and hiking the mountain. There's an opportunity for everyone and at all levels of ability too, right? There's easy trails, there's more challenging trails, and we're not talking. Not everyone can hike Grossmore Mountain, right? Not everyone can do that. Not everyone can do those more challenging tours, but if you work up to that, there's also, it's a training ground. If you wanted to work up to it, you have the ability to. We have an opportunity out there for, there's operators out there that will give you guided tours of trail networks and backcountry that, you'll never get the opportunity to see it unless you get the opportunity to see it with some local knowledge that's giving you some interesting stories along the way about what happened here and, why this is built this way and who's used this trail and why it was used in the beginning. Because many of the trails that are built across this province were built there well before they were ever manicured and all that stuff. They were used as passages for people to get to where they wanted to go. And, going along the trail network, whether it's to see seabirds or eagles or whales breaching, you get all that along the coastline of this Newfoundland Labrador that, I've never seen anywhere else I've had the pleasure of traveling. So, it's pretty great experience.
It is, and the first time I ever went to Grossmorn, I did. I get dropped off in the end of the pond and walked out for several days, and it was absolutely stunning. And I know that there's tour operators that are doing that type of experience. And the other thing is that during this whole period of time when people have been isolated, we have been so fortunate to not be stuck in a concrete tower somewhere. We can walk out and people on the trails were so respectful of space and everything else and giving their distance. But, I think we were so fortunate in the fact that we could get out and have these amazing things at our doorstep during a, time when a lot of people in the world were kind of trapped in their little concrete jungles.
No, you're right, and 265 kilometers of trail networks just in the East Coast Trail Network alone. There's lots of room for social distancing there, and from our health standpoint, it's really good to just get out and get active. And it's a challenge when some people are a bit nervous about what's going on with COVID, and getting out and experience some of the beautiful weather and scenery is good. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your physical health. It's just good all around work for your body and your mind. So, from my standpoint, I always take the opportunity. I have a couple of dogs that I like to take on the trail with me when I can, if the trail is safe. And most of the trails are set up for you can have a quicker jaunt if you wanted to, or a longer one. So there's opportunities for you to park at one end with your partner or a significant or your double bubble, as they'd say.
Yes. Exactly.
And walk to your other car. I mean, if you wanted to shorten the trip a little bit that way, because you only had a certain period of time. But there's ample opportunities for people to avail of it. I mean, I've had the pleasure of doing a bunch of different trails all over the East Coast for sure. But I'm going to really put a push on myself to try to get out in some of the other areas of the province and hike some of those beautiful trails.
So many great maps out there, and like you said, it's a training ground for our own physical fitness. People may not be able to go into their traditional forms of exercise, but you can't beat, and you can go fast or slow up these things. And even I did Blackhead the other day, and the trail even divides into more advanced and easier. And so even within the trails, they've even been cognizant of that type of stuff. So yeah, take your time, go through it, do it for the physical activity. But okay, so that sort of leads us to the next thing you had said was the food and foraging tours, because they're big. I met a guy the other day, real foraging expert, Sean Dawson, and just within like a few minutes was able to point out some amazing things I didn't know about. I'm definitely going to put that on my list of things to learn. But tell me a bit about some of those things that people can do for that.
Well, I mean, the opportunities for people to participate in guided tours to watch some of the plant life are, some of the food that you can get from the trails, off the trail networks that we have in the province. I mean, I haven't had the opportunity to do one of these myself. I'm going to do one this summer, and Mr. Dawson probably could be a good one for me to work with on that too. But there's so many different options, and it depends on the community you go to, who's going to be providing it. And from my standpoint, I've always been a firm believer that the best people to provide you the advice is the people that are on the ground in the community in which you're going to. They're the first-hand knowledge. They're the lived experience, as they say. And any opportunity we have to have a guided person take you to, have a boil up on the beach during your walk, or as you said earlier, catch the fish, then cook it for yourself and your team that's there. I mean, all of those experiences are what we try to sell as a province, because that's the word of mouth advertising that we have. The advertising campaigns that we've had are award-winning and win awards globally and nationally, and we're happy about that. But the biggest thing we could always get is the experience that Dr. Mike Wall had a fantastic experience on this trail because he had this thing done, and he tells 1,000 people about that. That's the kind of marketing we can't afford to pay for, and the kind of marketing that really drives people to want to come to this province each and every time, right? And our best ambassadors are the people in the province. They're the ones that are telling people when they go on vacation themselves, say, you got to come to the province. You got to come here because it's so beautiful. If you want to see whales, you see dolphins there. You come up and see big whales in Newfoundland if you want to come up in June.
So it's funny, it's the unintentional entertainment factor too when people start telling stories, and that's the real charm of it all. I guess that's why there was a Broadway show, Come From Away, based on hospitality here. So unintentionally, you get people telling local stories, and it makes for an amazing adventure just outside of the scenery and everything else. Well,
that's part of our experience, right? We're great storytellers. I'm not such a good storyteller, but there's a lot of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians that are great storytellers. They can spin a good yarn, and not only that, they provide that information about the region that's so important that people. When you come there, it's one thing to just visit Twillingate and see an iceberg. It's quite another thing to have someone in the community show you and tell you how many icebergs have come there and what they stand for and some of the cool ones that have been there. And there's so much that you can get with the experience side that's the life-changing stuff. Visually it's great and appealing, and a lot of people try to do their own walking tours and things like that. I've always been a firm believer that you get a lot more when you hire somebody or partner with a group to do a tour, because you always tend to find out a little bit more about the intricacies of the community in which you're visiting, right? I think that's important.
Yeah, I was going to say, and a lot of the foods, we talk about exercise, but a lot of the foods we have here are amazing and healthy and great, and people could learn about how to eat local as well. And be able to improve their health that way. We had a gardening show on recently where people were talking about growing food here. Lots of things you can grow here in Newfoundland and learn about, and things that exist in nature. So.
Yeah, no, we're trying as a government too to food security and sustainability. I mean, we're doing investments in that all the time, and we understand that. I mean, we used to have 80 or 90% of our foods made here and grown here. So from my standpoint, I always look at the opportunities for us to grow the opportunities, grow the opportunities for us here in this province from an agricultural standpoint as well.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a big education we can have about the place that we live, and another way to get to see it. Sometimes for people, it's a really fun way too, and they're obviously catching a lot of attention. It was the last thing you mentioned, which was ATV tours.
Yeah, I mean we have there's a bit of activity for everyone there. If you like the motorized vehicles, whether it be ATVs or skidoos, I had the ability to do a skidoo tour, skidoo run, this winter, and it was fantastic. And the scenery that you get to see at different seasons of the year are completely different too. So when the lakes or ponds are frozen over, you get a completely different viewpoint of what's out there. And obviously ATV tours is a business that's starting to ramp up in the province. It's always been there. It's growing each and every year, and it's growing because of the people that are involved in the industry themselves. The operators, they're really trying to diversify the offerings they have and make it more inclusive for people that want to get out and see different things and different times of the year, different lengths of time, different experience levels that you can have. I mean, a lot of people get the opportunity to not ride ATV or a skidoo very often in their lives, right? So anytime you give them that opportunity to do something a little different, that's just one more notch in the belt of experience that they get to bring with them and tell someone about how great the experience was here in our province.
Well, that's great. Well, listen, we're running out of time, but any last words you want to share with the listening audience?
Very excited about what the season has to show for us in 2020. I know it's going to be a challenging one. We look forward to salvaging what we can out of that, and part of that is going to be everyone pulling together and wanting to get out and see some of this province, which is important. And I know myself, I can't wait to get out to see Sandbanks Provincial Park in Burgeo. I haven't been there. I've seen a picture, a photo contest here in the province. One of the residents of the province took a picture, and it looks beautiful. I can't can't wait to go down and see it and experience what it is down in Burgeo area, and just get out and experience those things that are a little different. There's French bread ovens in Port au Choix that you can go up and cook your bread, eat it, have a cup of tea, watching whales or looking at the bay, boats going back and forth. It's a great experience. Get out and enjoy what it is that makes our province the best province in the country, but the best place to live in the world.
I agree 1,000%. Well, Minister Davis, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to share that with us, and I'm sure we'll have you back to give us updates as more things are happening in the province.
No, happy to do so. Thank you, Mike, for the great work you do, and get out and enjoy what it is to be Newfoundlanders and Labradorians for sure this summer.
Minister Davis, he is the elected representative of the District of Virginia Waters in Pleasantville and the Minister of Tourism, Culture, Industry, and Innovation. He was telling us about all the great things we can do here in the summer while we're doing staycations and staying active. We'll be right back after this break.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM. Now back to Dr. Mike Wall. This is the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM.
Welcome back to the show. In the first half of the show, we talked to Minister Davis about the adventure tourism and activities we can get right here in our own province. And this half of the show, we got a very special guest, and we're going to talk about what you can do outside, but also how to be safe. With me for this half of the show is Rene Ritter. He's a wilderness medic and outdoor educator. He's completed long-distance expeditions in Greenland and the Arctic, and was most recently supported by Canadian Geographic Society. He's currently running an outdoor education business and sea kayaking tour company based out of Cape Broyle. Welcome to the show, Rene.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
That's awesome. I think that your story is so incredible. We're talking about being outdoor and being active in the province this summer. Maybe you can tell folks that haven't heard of some of your adventures a little bit about yourself.
Well, yeah, I think you covered a good bit of it there in the intro. I'm actually, as unfortunate as the situation is currently, I think that it's a good time to explore our own backyard. And I'm actually really stoked to get out there and see some places in Newfoundland that I've been meaning to see and just haven't gotten around to it. Up until now, I've been involved in mostly kind of long distance, long-term expeditionary type projects where I'm gone for a month or 5 weeks here and there. And I'm happy to be home here while this is going on, and to hike and paddle and do some of the things I wanted to do.
You went to Greenland and you traversed across Greenland, right? And then you've got another expedition you got planned going up north, right?
Yeah, I did in 2016. I did a crossing from the east to the west, across the ice cap from coast to coast, and then the following year I did an 11-day trip in the Baffin Mountains through a traditional pass from one Arctic community to another, and then 2018 I started a 3-year project, which has been postponed now because of the issues here, but it's a traveling of the Northwest Passage, starting in the west of Nunavut and then ending in the east of Nunavut. So there's been some hiccups in that whole journey, but no good journey is ever without a few hiccups.
A little bit extra time to train, I suppose. So this plus 20-degree weather must be sweltering for you if you're used to being in the Arctic all the time.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. It's good. And so, we talked in the first half of the show about all the different activities we can do right here in our province. What are some of the things that you do around here locally?
Well, since I'm a dad, I find that my focus has changed a little bit outside. I enjoy taking he's 2.5, so I enjoy taking him out and just watching him explore the world in his little toddler brain, and everything is super cool and awesome. So I really enjoy just being outside and doing things that are more low-key now. But I'm, as I mentioned, I'm really happy to have the opportunity to paddle more and to learn more about sea kayaking. It's something that I wanted to pursue for a really long time, to increase my skill set and to become more proficient at doing some things that are beyond my level of comfort. And I want to do some more, the Avalon Wilderness Reserve really intrigues me, so I really want to spend as much time there as I can, hiking and just exploring, checking out some of the areas to fish on the island as well. And I've never salmon fished before. I would like to try fly fishing for salmon. And so those are some of the things I hope to do this summer as I staycation.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had the opportunity. I might not be able to do it this year because traveling off the island is difficult, but I went up to the Eagle River and went fishing one time, and it was just unbelievable because I grew up next to a river in New Brunswick, and there was salmon fishing there, but it was nothing compared to this. So, we've got some pretty world-class stuff here. Minister Davis was talking about, some of these things to do, but I think it's important when people venture outside for the first time and start hitting off some of the East Coast trails they've always wanted to, and maybe going a little bit further than they have before, or trying things that are a little bit more adventurous. Safety becomes a big issue, and that's one of the things you teach people about. When people are about to start hiking, getting a bit more into it, what are some safety tips they should keep in mind?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. And I think for the most part, people are cautious and responsible when they go into the backcountry, and they know their limitations and things of that nature. But on occasion, in experience working with search and rescue teams across the country and working with them in an educational perspective, I hear a lot of stories about unfortunate situations where people are not prepared when they go out in the backcountry, and it's often a situation where the person is lost and they get hypothermic, and then they're either found very unwell or they are found. It's an unfortunate outcome. So some of the key points with respect to safety would be to know your limitations, plan ahead for sure, let someone know where you're going, when you're going to take off, and when you're going to expect to be back, and if you're not back, in a certain time frame, to activate EMS, Emergency Medical Services. Bring the appropriate gear for the environment that you intend to go to. So if you're a paddler and you want to, canoe on a remote pond somewhere, wear your PFD. Bring enough equipment to get through a night, even if you don't plan to be out there for the night. We all know Newfoundland. We all know the weather changes sometimes dramatically and quickly. So if you're, not equipped with the proper communication devices, navigation devices, then you could easily see yourself getting lost, and then that could lead to an unfortunate outcome.
Right. And for people that, for example, on the Avalon that might be hiking the East Coast Trail, or people coming to the Avalon to hike the East Coast Trail, there are great trail maps now, and things like Google Earth and things like that allow you to be able to take a look at what you're getting into before you even start. Is that something you tell people to do, is have maps and sort of things like that as well that will help them navigate a little better? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Being prepared before you go out into the wilderness is something that I always advocate. It's just a safety mechanism that people should practice. Generally, I try not to be a should-be person or you should do this, but it's just good practice to be prepared. When you go out on the trail, I've seen it personally walking the trails in Newfoundland. I did the long-range traverse maybe 2 years ago, and as we were coming out after 5 beautiful days, we saw people coming in with low-top sneakers on and shorts and T-shirts that are made of cotton, and I just remember thinking, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, exactly. I did that actually, and that was an amazing trek. But I went with a good friend of mine who was an RCMP officer and knew his way around the woods. He was from Rocky Harbor, so he was a local. And but that made it all that much better, having the right equipment and then having the right tools. And we checked in with the park and all that stuff before we went. So let's talk about a little bit more health-related stuff. You're outside. We're exposed to the elements now. The sun has been shining for a little while, which has been awesome. What about sun protection, hydration, things like that people should think of?
That's a great question, and I think I can kind of sum it up with basically one point, and it's called bringing the 10 essentials. So 10 essentials are the 10 essential items that we recommend in wilderness medicine to bring with you to protect yourself against sun. So, for example, sunscreen, obviously, and hats, things of that nature, and then 9 other items like navigation and fire starting and extra food and water and clothing and things like that. So being prepared, research online the 10 essentials. They're relatively all the same depending on where you go, and super advocate bringing that along. Even if long story short, what people gets into trouble is the phrase, I'm just going to go for a half a day. And then that turns into 2 days,
Perfect.
So,
Yeah. Okay, good. And so, what would be some of the 10 essentials?
So 10 essentials, navigation, so map, compass, GPS. GPS, wary of. Sometimes it's a great tool, but like all electronics, it can fail. It can die on you. Headlamp, sun or wind protection, we just discussed. First aid kit, a knife or some sort of cutting tool that you prefer. The ability to make fire, like it could be anything. Bic lighters, not to throw out a name brand there, but they in the cold don't work so great. So matches, a fire starter, or something like that. I know we're not supposed to build fires outside. It's prohibited in a survival situation. There's maybe some legalities there to look at. You want to bring shelter of some sort. That could just be a tarp, a small tarp, and some cord. You want to bring extra food, a way to make water, whether that be some sort of purification device, and finally extra clothes. I think most of us know that when you sweat, you get cold real quick. So if you can change into a new non-cotton shirt, cotton not good outside, please please try not to wear cotton. But wool or synthetics are recommended. When cotton gets wet, you get cold and you become hypothermic potentially.
That's awesome. Well, that's a really great start here. We're going to jump to a break, Rene. We'll come back and we'll chat more about being safe outdoors. We're here with the wilderness medic and outdoor educator, Rene Ritter. We'll be right back after this break.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM. Now back to Dr. Mike Wall. This is the Health and Wellness Show on your VOCM.
Welcome back. We're here with wilderness medic and outdoor educator Rene Ritter, and we are talking about being outdoors this summer and getting your physical activity in a safe way. Rene, you obviously have to train before you go on these big, long expeditions. What does some of that training that you go through entail?
It's a bit unusual, actually. If you ever see a really tall guy dragging a couple of tires behind him down the street, then that's probably me getting set for a trip. But that's actually what I do. I'll just pull weight behind me because in the polar journeys that I do, that's essentially what I do for 10 hours a day. So it's I try to do it so really I'm not visible because it does look silly. But I do that a fair bit when I'm getting ready for a trip. Being involved in a couple of businesses now, my time is actually spent a lot indoors, so I'm trying to turn that around and get outside. So I enjoy biking. I enjoy riding my mountain bike. I enjoy paddling. I do some pack rafting. It's just a small inflatable raft you can hike with, and then when you get to a body of water, you can put in and then paddle across and things like that. So just being outside. I'm not a runner per se, but it's a way to become cardiovascularly fit. So I try to do that as much as I can, just more so for my joints and my body. So that's what I do for the most part.
Yeah. So, I mean, these types of things, trekking, hiking, they can be pretty physically demanding for people. But, what are the types of changes you would expect somebody who's like, okay, I'm going to start hiking this summer. I'm going to get out. I'm going to start hitting the trails that I've heard about my whole life living in Newfoundland. What would they expect to see for changes in their health and their fitness if they started getting out there?
Yeah, I can only obviously speak for myself, but for me personally, I find that getting out there and becoming more active is, I see the weight drop off fairly readily. So that's always happy. I'm always happy to see that. I just find that I'm more, my mood is better. My level of energy is higher than if I'm stuck in an office for 2 weeks doing paperwork and strategic plans. So, it's definitely a physical and a mental benefit for sure. It's, equates to sleeping better. I come home and I sleep way better if I've been outside all day than if I've been in the office all day. So, it's a multifaceted kind of benefit for me, personally.
That's awesome. And those are some of the major pillars of health. And we've had lots of guests talk about different ways that they're able to achieve it. And I think being out in nature is definitely one of the best things we can do for our mental health. It helps break the day up. And you know what? It's so funny in Newfoundland, like we were talking earlier in the show, that some people are stuck in big buildings and they can't get out. And we have access to some breathtaking views within 5 minutes of town. So, or in town or wherever you live in Newfoundland, you may live with a view in your front yard. So very lucky.
We're very lucky. We're very lucky to live where we are. We live in one of the most beautiful areas of the world, in my opinion. So,
well, you mentioned earlier about kayaking and how you also run some tours with that. I always assumed, but I didn't know that kayaking in Newfoundland is some of the best in the world too.
When I lived in Nunavut for a really long time, being originally from here, like a lot of people, I moved away to pursue other career opportunities. But we we moved back a year ago, and for the last year, I'd been planning to begin a sea kayaking outfit in Cape Broyle, which is where we have a little place there on the seaside. So this has been a dream of mine for a long time. So after a year of planning, to realize that there's a pandemic, it was obviously a fairly low point for me, and so we're just sort of trying to make the best of it now, and hopeful that people will take advantage of the opportunity to stay at home and to explore their own backyard a little bit. So as disappointing as it is, it's still there's still the stoke is high to offer programs in Cape Broyle.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's a huge focus for the tourism department and the government, and they're going to try to really promote that for people. And I think that people come here all the time to do these types of activities, and we have them right there in front of us. When it comes to sea kayaking, there's probably some things that people can go out and buy a sea kayak very easily. You can get them at department stores and things like that now. Let's go back to that safety topic for a second. What are some safety things people got to take into account if they're about to venture into the North Atlantic on a sea kayak for the first time?
Yeah, so I see a lot of people on Facebook, for example, who've gone out and bought, kayaks from, or some sort of watercraft from a local hardware store or whatnot, and then I see pictures of them on ponds with again, T-shirt and shorts, or T-shirt and jeans with no life jacket. And it's a little concerning to me just from my occupation working in health and safety. There's two issues with water. Obviously, there's the element of drowning, and then there's also the element of exposure to water. So typically what claims the most lives is submersion. So people, unfortunately, drown, or they're exposed to water, they become hypothermic, and if they survive, they could be, there could be some long-lasting problems for them neurologically. So I try to advocate people to always wear a PFD, or a personal flotation device, or a life jacket, and to always dress for the water temperature and not the air temperature. So,
yes.
And I have in my risk management plan for the kayaking business, that's a really stringent protocol for the guides, is that you ensure that people have their PFDs on and on correctly, and that they're thermally protected from exposure to the water. We don't expect people to get in the water, but in the event that there is an event where people are out of the boat, that they're protected.
Well, that's a good point. I think that a lot of these things, like the sort of vein of our chat right now, is get out, get active, do these things that are amazing for us. Just make sure we're doing it safely, and that's one of the other things that you do, is you help people learn about survival and wilderness safety. Tell us a bit about what that type of training includes, because people are taking up new hobbies now. It's the pandemic. Everybody's learning new things. They're learning how to make breads. They're learning how to do everything. But why not learn how to navigate our outdoors? Yeah,
so this kind of falls back to just my passion for being outside and doing it in a safe way. We offer a few different programs that focus on learning the skills. So we welcome people who have absolutely zero experience outside. There may be people outside who want to get out there and go hiking and camp and things like that, but just don't really know where to start. So that's sort of where we come in. So we have a program that's called the Outdoor Skills Course. And the Outdoor Skills Course starts from the very basics, like preparing a trip plan, getting ready to go out, how to pitch a tent, how to create an emergency shelter from tarps and natural things you find in your environment. In the event, something happens to your tent and it blows away here, it's not hard for something to blow away on you. Talk about hygiene in the backcountry. We talk about, how to build an emergency fire. We talk about how to navigate, and to navigate using some really interesting, cool, old school stuff like the sun and the stars, not to necessarily only rely on a GPS or a cell phone. So it's just meant to up people's confidence and up their knowledge base before they go out there. And we've done it in the wintertime this past winter, and it was pretty well received. People enjoyed it, even in some really cold and blustery conditions, where we camped overnight, and we had a nice, at the time we had a fire, and it was a good time.
I love that. So we're starting to wind down here now, Rene, but what's next for you on your adventures?
long as the pandemic's in place, obviously travel is not going to be an option for me personally. And so for me, it's more so just focusing on helping people get outside and spending more time with my son and my wife, my family, outdoors. Again, just paddling around Cape Broyle, poking and exploring different places, and just helping people just rekindle their passion for this amazing place. That's awesome.
Well, listen, if we want to follow your adventures, how can they follow you on social media?
I do have a Twitter account. I have a Twitter, so it's at Arctic_Rene, R-E-N-E, and then in Instagram it's at PolarRene, just one E, R-E-N-E. I try to post there as often as I can, but if you're interested in the Northwest Passage trip, that's my passion right now, is the Northwest Passage, just from a historical and from a challenge perspective. So there's some nice photos of there. There's some nice video of polar bears in north that I've kind of encountered. So if you're interested, have a look.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, we will expect to see you dragging tires around town this summer. And thanks very much for being on the show today and sharing all that great information with us.
I appreciate the time, and everyone be safe out there, and hope to see you down in Cape Broyle or somewhere having some fun.
Well, that was Rene Ritter, wilderness medic and outdoor educator. That was our show today, guys. I think it was a great show. It encourages everybody to get out and see this beautiful province we have, get fit, get healthy, and enjoy everything that we have to offer here right at home. That's today's show. We will catch up with you same time next week.
The Health and Wellness Show will be right back on your VOCM.